let's focus on finding your transverse abdominals. Your transverse abs are the deep abs that act like a corset around your torso. These can directly support our spine and our pelvis, and they are an anticipatory muscle that acts before we do a movement for that support, right? So the goal would be for these to kind of kick in when we're doing life without having to think about it, right? So what we're going to be doing in this exercise is just reconnecting to them, getting to see what it feels like, and this is a very subtle exercise. So you're not going to feel this big burn like you would with a plank, but we're just kind of getting to know where those muscles are and how it feels to gently contract them. So let's begin laying down. If you're currently pregnant and you want a little bit of a bolster, you can put a pillow behind your back. And we're going to come to the floor. So beginning with finding a neutral position through your pelvis. So we can start with a little bit of a pelvic tilt. So we're going to arch your low back, and you're going to kind of let your pubic bone point down towards the floor. And then we're going to pull your low back flat, and you're going to feel your pubic bone kind of scoop up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to find the middle. So this is pretty much sitting flat, right? We have a little bit of a space between your low back and the floor. And we're not pulled under, tucking under. Your glutes should be relaxed. Let's get everything to kind of calm down. So try to get your hip flexors to relax. And let's take your two fingers on each side, and we're going to find your hip bones. And we're going to bring them just inside the hip bones so it's on your low abdominal area. And let's begin with a nice slow 360 inhale, so feeling that expansion in ribs and back, a little bit of a release or tension in the pelvic floor. And then as you exhale, I want you to imagine that your hip bones are drawing in towards the middle. We're getting a little bit of a gathering or a knitting together of your low abs. And then inhale. Feel a little bit of that expansion, that 360 breath. And then exhale, teeny tiny pelvic floor lift, so a really subtle engagement. And that knitting together, drawing in of the low abs, right? So we're not sucking your low abs in, we're not tucking under, we're not clenching your glutes. We're using those low, deep transverse abdominal muscles to find some support and some engagement. So it should feel like a little bit of tension here, right? So a cue that I love that my friend Jen uses with her patients, she's a pelvic floor PT, she says, picture your hip bones like beams of light, two beams of light pointing up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, imagine that those beams of light are now going to cross over each other. So they're kind of crossing in, hip bones drawing in. Little bit of pelvic floor engagement, not a whole lot, but just enough where we feel those low abs coming on board. And then on your inhale, we allow that to release. You release any tension in the pelvic floor. And exhale, subtle engagement. So we want to focus for this exercise on your lower abs, right? The lower deep abs. A lot of times people are stronger in the middle part of their transverse abdominals because there are upper, middle, and lower. And sometimes that can cause extra pressure pushing down your pelvic floor. So if you're doing this and you notice you're kind of cinching in near the belly button and then there's some pooching or doming below, we want to avoid that. So we want to make sure that we aren't putting extra pressure down. So let's think about that engagement coming from the bottom up, kind of like you're zipping up, right? So we think a little bit of pelvic floor engagement, then the low abs, and then we can kind of get everything else on board when we are doing any sort of exercise that requires some more engagement. But for this, we're just finding that inhale and exhale. Subtle transverse ab engagement. So try that out and let me know how it goes.